The sky above Earth was clear that morning, but everything changed within minutes. A shadow rolled across cities and oceans, a shape so large it blocked the sun. People looked up in fear, pointing and screaming as a ship bigger than mountains entered orbit. It was no ordinary ship. Its metal surface shimmered like liquid silver. Its towers reached higher than skyscrapers, and strange lights pulsed across its body like a beating heart. Governments scrambled, militaries prepared, but no weapon on Earth seemed strong enough to face such a giant. News channels called it the day of first contact, and across the planet people waited, terrified, for what would happen next. The ship hovered for hours, silent, as if watching humanity from above. Then a voice thundered inside the minds of every human, a voice calm yet filled with power. "We are here," the voice said. "We are the Keleth, rulers of the stars." People fell to their knees, some in awe, some in fear, because no human had ever felt such presence inside their thoughts. The world leaders gathered quickly, deciding to send an envoy, someone brave but also clever. They chose a young engineer named Daniel, not because he was the strongest or most famous, but because he was calm under pressure, curious, and willing to face the unknown. Daniel had spent his life fixing machines, solving puzzles, and finding hope in impossible situations. Now he was being asked to represent all of humanity. A beam of light descended from the alien ship, brighter than the sun, but cold as ice. Daniel stepped inside, his heart pounding, his mind racing, yet his face calm. The light carried him upward, weightless, until he found himself standing inside a vast alien hall. The walls were alive with shifting colors, strange runes glowing like fireflies, and machines floating in the air with no wires or support. At the center of the hall stood a figure, tall, graceful, and powerful. She was not human. Her skin shimmered like crystal, her eyes glowed with golden fire, and her long hair floated as if underwater. She wore armor that looked like both silk and steel, and every step she took echoed with authority. This was the alien envoy, a woman chosen by the Keleth to speak with humanity. She studied Daniel with cold eyes, her lips curling in a faint smile of superiority. "So this is the human you send," she said, her voice sharp and proud. A fragile creature of flesh and bone, a short-lived spark in the dark. Her words echoed across the chamber, and alien guards in silver armor chuckled at her insult. Daniel did not flinch. He bowed his head slightly, not out of weakness, but out of respect. "I am Daniel," he said softly, "and I come in peace." The alien woman tilted her head, as if she had heard something amusing. "Peace?" she repeated, laughing. "Your people barely understand survival, let alone peace." She walked around him, circling like a predator examining prey. "Humanity is nothing special," she continued. "We have studied many species, and yours is small, chaotic, and predictable." She stopped in front of him, lowering her golden eyes. "You will never please me, human. Never." Her words were sharp, meant to crush his spirit, to remind him of the power gap between them. But Daniel did not bow, and he did not tremble. Instead, he raised his eyes to meet hers and spoke calmly. "Maybe we are small," he said, "but sometimes small things surprise the universe." Her smile faded slightly, a flicker of curiosity breaking through her cold mask. The alien guards shifted, muttering to one another, surprised that a human dared speak with such courage. The alien woman narrowed her eyes, her voice dropping lower. "You dare challenge me with words?" she asked. "Very well, human. Let us see if you can survive actions." She snapped her fingers and a glowing puzzle of shifting cubes appeared between them. The cubes twisted and spun, glowing with alien energy, forming a maze that bent space itself. "No one outside my people has ever solved this," she said coldly. "If you fail, humanity will be nothing more than a forgotten whisper among the stars." Daniel looked at the puzzle, his heart heavy, but his spirit steady. He did not know alien technology, he did not know their science, but he knew one thing. Humans had always found a way, even when the universe told them it was impossible. And now, under the burning gaze of the alien woman, he reached out and touched the puzzle. The first test had begun. The alien puzzle floated in the air, glowing like a living star. Its cubes twisted endlessly, shapes bending in ways that no human mind had ever seen. Some sides stretched into infinity, others folded back into themselves, like mirrors reflecting mirrors. The alien guards watched with cruel smiles, certain that the human would fail within moments. The alien woman stepped closer, her golden eyes never leaving Daniel. "This test is not for the weak," she said, her voice sharp as steel. "Many species begged to join our empire, and many tried to solve this challenge, all failed." She leaned down slightly, her expression filled with pride. "You, human, will fail as well." Daniel studied the puzzle without speaking, his fingers hovering just above its surface. The cubes shifted with a hum, alive, as though they were testing him in return. Strange symbols flashed across their sides, alien runes no human language could match. To any other person, the sight would have been terrifying, impossible, hopeless. But Daniel felt something different, a strange calm, as if the puzzle itself wanted him to try. He thought of his childhood, of broken machines he had once fixed with patience. He remembered puzzles that looked impossible, yet cracked open after a small change. The alien woman tilted her head, watching as he did not panic, did not tremble. Her smirk faded slightly, replaced by a flicker of irritation. "You should give up now," she told him, her voice cold. "Your world will not suffer if you surrender. It will simply remain beneath us." Daniel shook his head slowly, his eyes still locked on the puzzle. "That is not what humans do," he answered, calm and steady. "We do not stop when someone tells us we cannot." The guards laughed again, their voices echoing across the chamber. One leaned forward, whispering to another, "He will break soon. Watch." But Daniel's hands moved with steady rhythm, touching the cubes, sliding pieces, shifting angles. The puzzle reacted, glowing brighter, as though surprised by his touch. The alien woman narrowed her eyes, her voice lower now. "You do not understand what you are dealing with, human." Daniel finally looked at her, his expression calm but firm. "You're right," he said. "I don't understand yet, but I will." For the first time, silence spread across the hall. Even the guards stopped laughing, sensing a strange weight in the human's words. The alien envoy frowned, her pride fighting against an unfamiliar feeling, curiosity. How could a primitive creature speak with such certainty? Minutes passed, the cubes shifted faster, the puzzle resisting his attempts. It twisted violently, glowing with heat, trying to push his mind away. Daniel felt sweat on his forehead, his heart pounding harder. But he smiled faintly, whispering to himself, "One step at a time, just like always." The alien woman folded her arms, her golden eyes narrowing further. "You cannot win," she said again, her tone sharper. "This puzzle was designed to crush minds far greater than yours." Daniel moved another cube, sliding it into place. The glowing symbols aligned for just a second before spinning apart again. Gasps echoed from the alien guards, their confident smirks now replaced with unease. The envoy clenched her jaw, her pride cracking, though she refused to admit it. She stepped closer, her voice like fire. "How are you doing this?" Daniel looked at the glowing maze and then back at her. "Because I don't see it as your puzzle," he said softly. "I see it as a story, and stories always have a way forward." Her eyes widened slightly, the first true crack in her mask of superiority. No one had ever spoken of the puzzle like that. No one had dared treat it as anything other than a test of logic. Yet here was a human, stubborn and creative, turning an alien weapon into a game, into art, into something alive. The puzzle glowed brighter, its shifting slowed, as if listening to him. The alien woman's hand twitched almost as if she wanted to stop him, but pride kept her frozen. She could not admit she feared a human's progress. Not yet. Still, a whisper escaped her lips, too soft for her guards to hear. "This is impossible." Daniel's focus did not break, his hands moving carefully, calmly. Every mistake he turned into a new path, every block he turned into a chance. The more the puzzle resisted, the more determined he became. Not because he wanted glory, not because he wanted to prove her wrong, but because deep inside, he believed humanity was meant to rise. Finally, a surge of light spread across the puzzle, the cubes aligning into a strange pattern. They pulsed with golden energy, the same color as the envoy's eyes. Gasps filled the chamber, the guards stepping back in disbelief. The alien woman herself froze, her lips parting in shock. Daniel lowered his hands slowly, breathing hard but smiling. He was not finished, but he had reached farther than any other outsider in history. The envoy's golden eyes locked on him, the first hint of doubt in her voice. "Human," she whispered. "What are you?" And Daniel, still calm, still steady, gave her the simplest answer. "I am what you never expected." The alien chamber glowed with an uneasy light. The puzzle hovered in front of Daniel, its golden symbols pulsing like a heartbeat. The alien guards who once laughed now stood silent, their faces tense, their confidence shaken. No outsider had ever reached this stage. Yet a simple human from Earth had done it. The alien envoy's eyes narrowed. Her pride battling against disbelief, she stepped closer, her long crystal-like hair swaying in the cold air. Her golden eyes burned as she studied him, as if searching for the trick, but there was no trick. Only steady hands and a human will that refused to break. "You should not be here," she whispered, her voice lower than before. "You should have collapsed, screamed, begged for mercy by now." Daniel kept his focus on the puzzle, sliding one cube, rotating another. "Maybe I should have," he replied softly, "but I didn't." Her lips tightened, frustration building inside her. The Keleth were masters of logic, perfection, and superiority. They had conquered hundreds of worlds. Their puzzles had destroyed countless challengers. Yet here was a fragile human treating the impossible as if it were just another machine to repair. The guards muttered nervously, some taking steps back. One whispered, "If he solves it, the pact is broken." Another shook his head, "No, he cannot. It is not possible." But even their voices carried a tremor of doubt. Daniel moved another piece. The cubes locked into place for a moment before shifting again. He smiled faintly as if enjoying the challenge. It was not arrogance, but a quiet joy, the kind that came from solving problems others thought were hopeless. His calmness unsettled the envoy more than any threat could. She slammed her staff against the floor, the sound echoing through the hall. "Why do you continue?" she demanded, her voice sharp. "You know the end is failure, yet you keep moving forward." Daniel finally looked up, his eyes meeting hers, steady and unshaken. "That's what humans do," he said. "We keep trying, even when the universe tells us to stop." For the first time, her golden eyes widened. The words cut through her pride, striking something she did not want to admit. The Keleth had power, knowledge, and weapons beyond imagination, but they had forgotten what it meant to fight without certainty. To struggle against odds, to hope. Daniel's hands moved again. Shaping the puzzle with patience, the symbols flashed brighter. Lines of alien script aligning for a few seconds. The hall glowed with strange energy, the walls vibrating as if alive. The guards shifted nervously, unsure if they should interfere. The envoy's voice softened, not with kindness, but with curiosity she could not hide. "You are not like the others," she admitted, her tone slower. "They begged, they cursed, they collapsed, but you persist." Daniel shrugged lightly, his eyes still on the glowing puzzle. "Maybe persistence is our only real strength," he answered. "But sometimes that is enough." Her heart twisted at his words, though she tried to bury the feeling. The golden fire in her eyes flickered. Uncertain for the first time, she turned away briefly, hiding her expression from her guards. Inside, her thoughts burned. How could this fragile creature touch something meant only for the Keleth? The puzzle resisted harder, the cube spinning faster, trying to trap him in endless loops. Yet Daniel adapted, changing his approach, not with calculation alone, but with creativity. He hummed softly a tune from Earth, a song from childhood that calmed his mind, and as he did, his rhythm matched the pulse of the glowing cubes. The envoy's breath caught, her eyes fixed on him in shock. "What are you doing?" she whispered. Daniel smiled faintly. "I'm listening," he said. "Your puzzle is not only logic, it has music, it has rhythm. It wants to be understood." Her knees almost weakened at his words, because no Keleth had ever said such a thing. To them, puzzles were weapons, Tests of strength, not living songs to be heard. Yet here was a human who dared to see beauty where others saw only struggle. The cubes slowed, their golden glow spreading like ripples across the hall. Symbols aligned again, longer this time, forming a path of light through the puzzle. The guards gasped, stepping back in fear and awe. The envoy clenched her fists, whispering to herself, "Impossible." Daniel looked at her again, his voice calm. "It's not about being stronger," he said. "It's about being human. And humans see things differently." Her pride screamed to silence him, to call the guards, to destroy this fragile man. But another part of her, deep and hidden, leaned forward. Curiosity burned inside her, a dangerous curiosity that cracked her mask for the first time. The alien envoy felt something she had never felt toward a human. She wanted to understand him, and as the puzzle glowed brighter in Daniel's hands, she whispered the words she swore she would never say. "Human, how are you doing this?" The hall grew brighter as the puzzle floated in Daniel's hands. Its golden light spread across the alien chamber, reflecting off the silver walls like fire dancing on glass. The guards stared with wide eyes, no longer laughing, no longer mocking. Even they felt the strange power awakening, and they could not understand how a human had brought it this far. The alien envoy stood still, her sharp expression frozen in conflict. She had expected failure, humiliation, and weakness. Instead, she found herself watching with a rising storm inside her chest, a feeling she had not known for centuries. Curiosity mixed with something dangerous. Respect. Daniel moved carefully, his eyes locked on the puzzle. But he was not only using logic, not only moving pieces with cold calculation. Instead, he hummed softly again, a melody from Earth, a simple tune a child might sing. Each move matched the rhythm of his song, as though the puzzle was a partner in music. "Not an enemy," the envoy whispered almost to herself. Why do you treat it this way?" Daniel did not look at her, his focus steady. "Because everything is more than numbers," he said. "Even a machine, even a puzzle, even this challenge. They all have stories." Her golden eyes narrowed, confused yet shaken. The Keleth had always valued logic, precision, and domination. They saw the universe as a board of pieces to be controlled. But this human spoke as if everything had meaning, as if even cold metal held a heart. The puzzle pulsed again, and Daniel shifted another cube. The symbols aligned into an image, something like a star surrounded by waves. Gasps echoed from the guards, one dropping his weapon in shock. That is sacred," he muttered, trembling. The envoy's jaw tightened, recognizing the pattern immediately. It was not only a puzzle, it was a memory of the Keleth, a memory hidden for generations, a symbol only their highest scholars understood, and now, a human had unlocked it with nothing more than persistence and music. Her pride screamed in denial, but her heart whispered in awe. Daniel finally lifted his eyes, meeting hers across the glowing chamber. "You see," he said, his voice calm, "it's not just about strength or knowledge. It's about spirit. Humans keep trying, but we also feel, we imagine, we dream. And sometimes that opens doors logic cannot." Her breath caught, his words striking deeper than she wanted to admit. The guards looked at her nervously, waiting for her command, but she could not speak. Her mind caught between anger and fascination. This human was breaking walls she had built her entire life. "You dare suggest emotion is stronger than logic?" She snapped, her voice sharp again. Daniel smiled faintly, turning another piece of the puzzle. "I'm not suggesting," he answered. "I'm showing." The cubes glowed brighter, forming waves of light across the chamber. The walls vibrated with strange energy, as though awakening from long sleep. The envoy's heart pounded, her golden fire trembling. She had seen many species try, but never like this. Never with such stubborn faith. She stepped closer, her voice lower now, almost desperate. "Why risk everything for this? You could walk away, your people could accept their place beneath us." Daniel's hands did not stop moving, his voice steady. "Because walking away means we never grow," he said. "And humans, we are always reaching higher no matter how many times we fall." Her chest tightened, an emotion she could not name rising inside her. It was not fear, not anger, but something that made her hands tremble. She had looked at humans as insects, yet this one stood taller than kings in her eyes. And that thought terrified her. The final pieces shifted. The puzzle pulsed with golden light one last time. Then it unfolded like a flower, spreading beams of energy across the hall. The guards fell to their knees, shielding their eyes. Their voices trembling with disbelief, the envoy stared, unable to move. Her pride shattered, her certainty gone. Daniel lowered his hands slowly, breathing hard, sweat on his brow. But his smile remained calm, gentle, almost humble. "I told you," he said softly. "Sometimes small things surprise the universe." The envoy's lips parted, but no words came out. Her golden eyes, once filled with cold fire, now reflected confusion and something she had sworn never to feel. Admiration. She looked at the human not as prey, not as a tool, but as something she could not explain. Something dangerous, something inspiring. The hall was silent, save for the faint hum of the puzzle's glow. The guards remained still, awaiting her command. But she could not command. She could only stare at the man who had done the impossible. And deep within her heart, she whispered the truth to herself. This human is changing everything. The chamber still glowed with the fading light of the puzzle. The guards whispered nervously, their armor clinking as they shifted, unsure whether to bow in fear or prepare their weapons. No outsider had ever reached this far, and yet the fragile human stood calmly in the middle of their sacred hall. Daniel breathed slowly, his face calm, though his body was heavy with exhaustion. The alien envoy's golden eyes blazed as she studied him. She felt something she hated to admit, a crack forming in the walls of her pride. For centuries she had looked down upon weaker species, never doubting the power of the Kelith. But this human, this small creature of flesh, had shaken her certainty. "You have gone far," she said coldly, her voice echoing through the hall. "But do not mistake this moment for victory." She raised her staff, and a new puzzle appeared, sharper and darker than the first. It spun with jagged edges, glowing red, its energy burning hotter than fire. The guards gasped, stepping back in fear. Even they knew this second test was forbidden for outsiders. It was not only a puzzle of logic, but of pain, designed to break the will of anyone foolish enough to touch it. Yet the envoy's pride demanded she throw this wall before him. Daniel looked at the new puzzle, his breath steady. He could feel the heat of its glow, the danger hidden within its spinning blades. The envoy smirked, her mask of superiority returning. "Try, human," she said, her voice like a blade. "Let us see if your stubborn spirit can survive this." He walked forward without hesitation, his hands trembling slightly but his eyes calm. "I will try," he said simply. The envoy frowned, her golden eyes narrowing. "You risk everything, and for what? For pride? For glory?" Daniel shook his head, placing his hand near the puzzle. "No," he answered. "For hope." Her chest tightened, anger and confusion mixing like storm and fire. No one had ever spoken such words in this hall. The Kelith valued power, control, perfection, but not hope, never hope. Hope was weakness in their eyes. Yet this human wore it like armor. Daniel touched the puzzle and pain shot through his arm. The red light wrapped around his skin like fire, making the guards flinch, but Daniel did not pull back. He gritted his teeth and pushed forward. The envoy watched, expecting him to scream, to fall, to surrender. But instead she saw something that made her heart falter. He smiled through the pain. "Why do you smile?" she demanded, stepping closer. "Do you not feel the fire tearing into you?" Daniel's voice was low but steady. "Of course I feel it," he said. "But pain is not the end. Sometimes it is only the path." Her golden eyes widened. Her breath caught in her chest. The walls inside her mind trembled. Walls she had built her whole life. For centuries she had hidden behind superiority, behind pride, behind certainty. But this human's words slipped through the cracks like light in darkness. The puzzle spun faster, blades of red slicing across the air. Daniel's hands moved carefully, each shift cutting deeper into his skin. Blood marked his fingers, but still he worked. The guards whispered in disbelief. He should be broken. Why is he not broken? The envoy clenched her fists, anger twisting in her heart. She wanted to shout, to command the guards to end this madness, but another voice inside her whispered a truth she did not want to face. She wanted to see if he could do it. Minutes dragged on, the red glow brightening. Filling the chamber with fire, Daniel swayed slightly, his body weak. But his eyes never left the puzzle. Every mistake he turned into a lesson. Every wound he turned into fuel. The envoy bit her lip, her pride shattering with each moment. Finally, the puzzle slowed, its blades folding back, its glow softening. The red turned to white, and the impossible second test bent to the will of a human. The guards gasped, dropping to their knees, their voices filled with awe and fear. The envoy's staff shook in her hands. Her golden fire trembling, Daniel lowered his bloody fingers, his breath ragged but steady. He looked up at her, his voice soft but powerful. "You see?" he whispered. "You cannot break what refuses to stop." Her heart thundered. Her mind screamed in denial, but her walls crumbled further. This human was not supposed to exist in her world of logic and perfection. Yet he stood before her stronger than she could admit. And for the first time in centuries, the envoy felt powerless. She looked at him, her voice barely above a whisper. "Why do you do this?" she asked, almost pleading. Daniel met her eyes, his answer simple. "Because that's what it means to be human." The chamber fell silent, the guard stunned, the envoy frozen. Her walls, once unshakable, had begun to fall, and deep inside her golden eyes a dangerous truth flickered. She no longer looked at him as prey, but as something she could not ignore. The chamber was heavy with silence. The red puzzle had faded into white light, floating gently before disappearing into the air. The alien guards remained frozen, their eyes wide, their voices caught in their throats. A human had endured what no other species dared to face, and he had not broken. Daniel stood weak but unyielding, his hands marked with blood, his body trembling, yet in his eyes there was no fear, no defeat, only quiet strength. The alien envoy stared at him, her golden fire flickering. For the first time in centuries, she felt the weight of doubt pressing against her heart. "This cannot be," she whispered, though her voice carried across the vast hall. "You should have fallen, you should have begged, but you endure." Daniel gave a tired smile, his voice steady despite his pain. "You think strength is never bending," he said, "but true strength is bending and still not breaking." Her lips tightened, her pride screaming, yet her thoughts spun in chaos. She had seen empires crumble, leaders fall, species vanish, but never had she seen such fire inside such fragile flesh. This human was rewriting what she believed to be truth. She stepped closer, her long hair glowing like threads of light. "Enough games," she declared, though her tone wavered. "If you wish to prove humanity's worth, then face the final stage." She raised her staff, and a third puzzle appeared. Unlike the others, it was not sharp, not endless, not violent. It was quiet, glowing softly with blue light, almost gentle, almost sad. The guards gasped. Whispering in fear, one muttered, "The final puzzle. It has not been seen for generations." Another shook his head. "It is not a test of strength, it is a test of soul." The envoy's golden eyes locked on Daniel. "This is the end," she said, "the final turning point. No one outside the Keleth has ever touched this." Daniel looked at the puzzle. Its soft glow calming yet mysterious. It pulsed like a heartbeat, like something alive, like something waiting. He reached out slowly, his bloody fingers trembling, and touched its surface. The puzzle responded, unfolding into patterns of stars, galaxies, and shapes beyond comprehension. He blinked, his breath catching. This isn't just a puzzle," he whispered. The envoy stepped closer, her voice softer than before. "No, human, it is memory," she said. "The memory of our people, the weight of our past, the burden of our pride." The chamber dimmed as visions filled the air. Images of the Keleth's rise, their wars, their conquests, their victories, but also their emptiness, their cold logic that left no room for love, no space for weakness. Daniel watched in silence, feeling the sorrow hidden beneath their pride. He turned to her, his voice gentle. "You hide behind superiority because you fear what you lost," he said. Her golden eyes widened, her breath catching. "No one dares say that to me," she whispered. Her voice shaking, Daniel smiled faintly. Maybe no one dared, but someone needed to. The puzzle shifted again, showing him choices, paths, doors opening and closing. He realized it was not asking for logic, not asking for calculation. It was asking for heart, for spirit, for something the Keleth had long abandoned, and he knew exactly what to give. He closed his eyes and thought of Earth. He thought of laughter, of rain falling on rooftops, of children running through fields. He thought of music, of voices singing together, of stories told by firelight. He thought of hope. The one thing no pain, no power, no empire could erase. The puzzle pulsed, glowing brighter, resonating with his thoughts. The chamber filled with sound, not harsh, but warm, like 1,000 voices singing. The guards dropped to their knees, clutching their chests, unable to comprehend. The envoy staggered back, her golden eyes wide, her mask of superiority crumbling to dust. she whispered, her voice barely audible. You are touching what even we could not. Daniel opened his eyes, his voice calm. Because you stopped looking, he said. You forgot that the universe is not only power, but also connection. Her heart twisted, her walls collapsing completely. For centuries, she had been the proud voice of her people, untouchable, unshakable. Now a human, wounded and fragile, stood before her as if he carried the strength of entire worlds, and she could not deny it. Ah! The puzzle glowed one last time, its light spreading across the chamber like dawn. The visions faded, leaving silence so heavy it felt sacred. Daniel lowered his hands, his body weak, his spirit strong. The envoy fell to one knee, her golden eyes trembling, her voice breaking. Human, she whispered, how are you doing this? Daniel looked at her, his answer soft yet unshakable. Because I am not just me, he said. I carry the spirit of humanity, and that spirit never stops. The chamber trembled. The guards bowed their heads in awe. The envoy lifted her gaze, her walls broken, her heart unguarded. For the first time, she saw not a fragile creature, but a force that could shake empires. And she knew this was the true turning point, not only for him but for her and for the stars. The chamber was silent after the final puzzle dissolved into light. The glow faded slowly, leaving only Daniel standing in the center. His hands scarred, his body weak, yet his spirit unbroken. The alien guards knelt in stunned silence, their armor shining under the fading glow, their voices hushed with fear and respect. No one had ever seen such a thing. No one had ever believed it was possible, and yet a human had done the impossible. The alien envoy remained frozen, her golden eyes locked on him. Her breath trembled, her pride shattered into pieces. For centuries, she had been the voice of power, of superiority, of unshakable dominance, but now, for the first time, she felt herself bowing in her heart to someone she had once called fragile. She lowered her staff slowly, the sharp sound of its tip striking the floor echoing through the chamber. Her voice was low, uncertain, almost reverent. Human, you have crossed walls no one dared to climb. You have touched what even the Keleth feared. How? Daniel smiled faintly, though his body shook with exhaustion. I told you, he said softly. Humans keep trying. Even when the universe says no, the guards exchanged glances. Their arrogance gone, some bowed their heads. Others pressed their fists to their chests in silent respect. The envoy looked at them, shocked to see her own soldiers trembling before a human. Her golden fire dimmed, not with defeat, but with humility she had never known. Daniel stepped closer, his voice calm though his legs threatened to give way. You thought strength was only domination, he said. You thought perfection was never falling. But perfection is not the human way. He looked at her, his tired eyes unshaken. Strength is falling and standing again, even when it hurts. Her lips parted, her chest rising and falling with a storm of emotions. For so long she had carried the pride of her people, believing it was truth, but this human had broken her walls, showing her that truth was wider, deeper, and more dangerous than she ever imagined. She whispered, her voice breaking, Perhaps your people are not weak. The chamber trembled, the great ship itself humming with power. The puzzles had been more than trials. They were connected to the heart of the Keleth vessel, now unlocked by Daniel's persistence and spirit. The ship responded in ways even the envoy did not expect. The walls lit up with maps of stars, glowing roots of forgotten knowledge, secrets lost for millennia. The guards gasped, one whispering, The human has awakened the core. Another muttered in awe, He carries the light of destiny. The envoy raised her head, her golden fire blazing once more, but now with a different flame, not of pride, but of recognition, of respect, of fear mixed with wonder. She stepped closer to him, her tall figure bowing slightly. You have done what we could not, human, she said, her voice heavy with reluctant awe. Perhaps your kind is more dangerous and more magnificent than we ever imagined. Her words carried across the chamber, sealing themselves into history. Daniel took a deep breath, his voice calm but firm. We are not perfect, he said. We are not the strongest or the oldest, but we endure, we hope, and we rise. He looked at the alien envoy, meeting her golden gaze without fear. That is what it means to be human. For a long moment, silence held the hall. The envoy studied him, her pride gone, her walls fallen, and then slowly, she lowered herself to one knee before him. The guards followed instantly, their heads bowed, their voices silent in reverence. A single human had made the unshakable kneel. A single spirit had broken the arrogance of an empire. And in that moment, the balance of the stars shifted. The future of humanity burned brighter than ever before. Daniel did not raise his hands in triumph. He did not shout, he did not boast, he simply stood tall, scarred, and tired. But carrying the quiet strength of his people, the envoy lifted her head, her voice a whisper now. "You have changed me, human. You have changed us." He nodded slowly, his answer simple yet eternal. Maybe that was always meant to happen. The chamber glowed one last time. The stars shimmering on the walls. The story of humanity was no longer small, no longer hidden. It was written in light, in defiance, in hope. And as the ship hummed with the power of new beginnings, one truth echoed louder than all. Humanity had triumphed,